July 4th, maybe Donald Trump will come out with some major disclosure news because someone said, I heard in the grapevine he had promised to do that on July 4th. I just was a vagabond of change, and I moved at least 5 times in 7 years under Uranus in Taurus, 4th house, for my Aquarius rising story. I like this energy if you're thinking that you might want to also seize the day. Carpe diem. Obviously, you Geminis are going to feel it. Obviously, it's a big deal for your story because this is how you're going to reset your life 4 times. 4 times between now and 2033. This is happening over the course of 2 years. It is a synodic cycle.
Lunatic astrology.
Mars and Uranus are meeting together in the sky for the first in a lifetime for most of us. Conjunction in the sign of Gemini, and this has not happened since the 1940s. So we are coming into break free, breakthrough, breakdown energy, unexpected, shocking change, and new directions. The world at large, individually, each of us has that experience together. This is happening on July the 4th. This is a synodic cycle. It indicates a 2-year predictive window. What I'm about to tell you today for the sun, moon, and rising signs of you listening today will not be about what happens on July the 4th. It's about what will happen in the next 24 months. So Mars's cycle with Uranus is every 2 years. Those 2 planets come together in the sky, and they just finished a 7-year stint of coming together in Taurus. And that happened every 2 years or 3 times since 2018-19. And we're going to go back and talk about that. But before we do that, I want to talk about what's coming. When Mars and Uranus are together, you can expect shocks or unexpected developments, sometimes difficult, sometimes things to do with world events that we don't prefer, things to do with war or upsets. And in this sign of Gemini, connections to technology and transportation and education are also highlighted. So there may be some technological shocks or advances, but we might also have upsets, and that can be things from power outages to cyber attacks to grid failures. And we can also have things happen that may be considered violent or unwanted that way. And because this is happening on July the 4th, happy birthday, America, this is what we call baking itself into the solar return chart, the birthday chart of America. It kind of means that the next year, America is ready, set, go with a Mars-Uranus conjunction, the temperament of the nation. But in the sibling chart, that is also happening in the house of open enemies. And we will contact that story or get down with that story in a minute. But before we do, I want to say one more thing about Mars and Uranus together. It can be beautiful, exhilarating, breaking free and breaking through energy. It can invite genius and divine downloads and radical self-aware change in each of our lives. It does not have to be at the personal level a problem, but at the greater collective level, it usually plays out in world events that we would consider shocking or unexpected and not necessarily desirable. And that would include, in this case, earthquakes as well, especially earthquakes related to the United States of America and its soil and its coastal soil maybe, but soil in general. And so, well, this is happening on July the 4th, and I'm recording on June the 27th. This is happening over the course of 2 years. It is a synodic cycle. It's not about July 4th. It's about 2 years. What is happening, though, in our sky on July 4th can be an event, and it is an activation once Mars crosses into Gemini on June the 28th. So June the 28th to a little bit after, or maybe a few days after July the 4th, we might expect some kind of world event that surprises, shocks, or, upsets the world, right? I don't know which way to go, upset, shock, surprise, but there's something there to be considered. We're going to dive today into your story. I want to look at your sky. I don't really want to talk so much about the world because this is how you're going to reset your life 4 times. 4 times between now and 2033. Every 2 years, another synodic cycle reset button hits you smack dab in your Gemini sky. And this is going to indicate that you will 4 times be twisting and turning into new directions. Obviously, you Geminis are going to feel it. Obviously, it's a big deal for your story. And so we're going to dive into that today, especially diving a little more into your sign. Welcome to my channel if you are new. This is Lori Lothian of Lunatic Astrology. I am trying to record on 4K with my iPhone above my laptop. I find it extremely awkward. So if I keep looking down instead of this way, it's because I'm used to looking at my iPhone camera, my Mac camera. So bear with me as I try to do this today. If you are new, you might not know that I'm a teaching astrologer. That's my main love. And I am teaching my Sky Reader class. It's to time your best life, become your own astrologer. If you want to learn the basics of reading your own natal chart and understand 2 very precise, fun, easy timing tools that you can use lifelong, then please join me this fall on the 3rd week of September for 7 weeks of live classes, Q&As weekly, Facebook and Discord support groups, teaching assistants helping me, and 4 guest teachers teaching really exciting new classes to you, as well as my teaching. It's chock full of opportunity and fun, and I only teach it once a year. So if you've always wanted to join me in Sky Reader, then in the description box below is the enrollment information. And until the end of July, there is a $200 discount, or it's a huge cut in price. And I've also added an extra week this year so that we're going to go at a little slower pace for some of you who have to catch up quickly to some of the Sky basics in the beginning. So join me in Sky Reader. I'd love to see you there. Now, Bren Butler in the archetypal universe waxes eloquent about this story. And he will tell you that when you put Mars and Uranus together in the sky, that the general archetypal themes are dynamic urges towards freedom and independence, determined cravings for thrills and excitement, sudden breakthroughs and rushes of energy, and the dark side, yes, can be reckless courage and defiance, impulsive rash action, flashes of anger, self-will, and excessive self-will. I like this energy if you're thinking that you might want to also seize the day, carpe diem, or break down to break through, or just break through, or break free of anything in your life that is constricting or constraining you. And while the world will experience flashpoints like earthquakes, especially connected to the United States, landmass, or things connected to cyber attacks and power outages, or disclosures about the UFO story. Why the UFO story, or aliens, or the truth is out there, or we are not alone? Because back in 1891, Pluto and Neptune co-joined at 8 degrees of Gemini. United States has Uranus at 8 degrees of Gemini. This is happening at roughly 4 degrees of Gemini on July 4th. Mars and Uranus and Gemini coming together is going to reactivate and reanimate the energy of Pluto and Neptune. And one of the Pluto-Neptune energies was the flying airships of the late 1800s. It activated a wave of flying airships. And there was also a connection, therefore, to Neptune, that which is invisible, unsure, unreal, imaginal, and that which is hidden or cloaked. Pluto had a cloaking device in ancient time. And this is literally fascinating to me because when the airship thing happened in the 1890s, all over the United States, people had different images. They would draw pictures of what they thought they saw. It reminds me of 1917 with Fatima, where some people saw a glowing ball of light that looked like a UFO or a plasma ball, and other people called it the Virgin Mary or whatever. So there's this way in which the UFO phenomena often seems to be converted by our mind and eyes into something that's more real for us, like near-death experiencers. You get the religion you believe in. If you're a Christy type, you get Jesus at the near end. And if you're Buddha, you get Buddha types, whatever. Your afterlife near death is reflecting your belief structures back at you. And when we see anomalous objects in the sky, other people will see plasma. Someone will see a UFO. Somebody will say it's a drone. So there's something about the obtuse and weird way that this UFO disclosure stuff is shown up and how there's been so many iterations of it. I'm an experiencer, and so I knew John Mack. It's part of my world, but Jacques Vallée wrote a book all about how they used to call them fairies and fairy rings, and then it became, UFOs or demons or whatever. Like the thing that plagues us from some other realm has had different names and different times of description over history, but it's always been with us, maybe. So there's that. July 4th, maybe Donald Trump will come out with some major disclosure news because someone said, I heard in the grapevine he had promised to do that on July 4th. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But you can expect the unexpected, or you can be shocked and surprised when Uranus is doing anything, let alone adding the fuel of Mars. The Mars energy, to me, in this regard, also speaks maybe, slightly anyway, to the possibility of some kinetic devices coming into explosive energies, if you know what I mean, in unexpected or shocking ways. For example, in the 1940s, when this Mars-Uranus-Gemini story was playing out, atomic weapons were dispensed on top of the nation of Japan, right? That energy happened under Mars, Uranus energy, and Gemini in the natal chart of the United States in the seventh house of open enemies. So we could very well see something going on with open enemies and dastardly deeds and weapons. The last synodic cycle of Mars and Uranus was going through the Taurus part of the sky. That was part of where crypto took off. That began in 2018, closed out already this year as Uranus entered out, fully left and kissed goodbye the Taurus scene, and now is journeying through Gemini as of the end of April. But what's interesting about that whole narrative is that we saw, for example, in the Taurus scene, we had a conjunction of Mars and Uranus at, I can't remember the degree, but earlier in Taurus on January 21st, perhaps, of 2020, and then again in August 1st or so of 22, and then Butler, Pennsylvania, anybody? And then in Butler, Pennsylvania on middle of July 2024. And that's why a lot of astrologers predicted, I was one of them, that there could be harm to Trump around the middle of August, life-threatening harm, because this Mars, the god of pow-pows and weaponry and people who use those weapons, and Uranus, the god of unexpected change and dramatic excitement, but also shock, in the 10th house on the midheaven, the high noon public eye part of his chart, was an event that we could predict. So we all lived through those 7 years that Mars and Uranus kept coming together 3 times in Taurus. For me, as an Aquarius rising, that happens to be my 4th house. That's my home, property, and real estate. I can't tell you how many unexpected moves I had because the landlord kept deciding this landlord sold her house. This one wanted to move back into her house. This little piggy had none. I just was a vagabond of change, and I moved at least 5 times in 7 years under Uranus in Taurus, 4th house for my Aquarius rising story, right? So we can look back and all look at the change that Mars and Uranus kept catapulting in our lives during the Taurus cycle. Now Mars is going to spend until 2033 activating the Gemini cycle. And that is going to be the first event, the first time. It's going to happen at approximately 4 degrees, almost 3 degrees and change, almost 4 degrees of Gemini. And then in June of 28, it'll happen at 11 degrees of Gemini. And on June of 2030, 19 degrees of Gemini. And then finally on June 6 to be exact, of 2032 at 26 Gemini. Clearly, if you're a Gemini sun or moon or rising, you're going to notice that these degrees are going up. And the closer these conjunctions of Mars and Uranus are to your sun or moon or rising, right, the more you're going to feel it. I want you to consider that you might have a planet anywhere in the first 6 degrees of Gemini, because if you do, then you're really going to feel it. That planet's going to be interacting with this energy. All right. So this is where you must pay attention to me right now. If your Mercury is sitting in Gemini, which by the way, your natal Mercury, it's in good shape there in the first 6 degrees of Gemini, or you happen to have Mercury in the first 6 degrees of Sag or Pisces or Virgo, those are the mutable signs, then you're going to notice that Mercury can translate the freedom, breakthrough energy. He can translate that energy and move it on over to what? Move it on over to the signs he owns, Gemini, where he is in the chart, where this is happening, and also move it on over, well, where the Mars conjunction is happening, and move it on over to Virgo. And if you have this instead, a Venus placement in the first 6 degrees of Gemini, Sag, Pisces, Virgo, that Venus will translate some of the kinetic energy to massive radical changes in the 2 houses she owns, the Taurus whole sign house chart, part of your chart. Don't use plastics, use my how to cast your chart in whole signs house free video tutorial below. And Venus can translate it to Libra. So the Libra whole sign house and the Taurus whole sign house and the Gemini whole sign house matter to your sign. And then we move on and we say, what about Mars? Well, if Mars is in the first 6 degrees of Gemini, Sag, Pisces, or Virgo, you're going to translate that energy there too, right? You're going to notice that the kinetic explosions move into 3 houses, the Gemini, and then the other Mars ruled houses, Aries and Scorpio. If your Jupiter is in the first 6 degrees of Gemini, Sag 6 degrees, Jupiter, Pisces, and Virgo, the translation of energy from Jupiter is to his Pisces house and to his Sag house, right? So it's going to have multiple layers to it. And if your Saturn is in the first 6 degrees of Gemini, Sag, Pisces, or Virgo, then your Saturn translates the energy kinetically to what? To Capricorn and Aquarius. Now, this is happening over 2 years, okay? And if you're not just on the day of July 4th, and if your sun is in the first 6 degrees of Gemini, Sag, Pisces, Virgo, your sun translates it to your whole sign Leo house as well. Your moon, first 6 degrees of Gemini, Sag, Pisces, and Virgo, then your moon will translate some of the energy to her kingdom, the Cancer part of your whole sign house sky. So you can use those indicators to know, even if your sun, moon, and rising is in the mutable signs, any planet in the first 6 degrees will feel it, because it is the orb of influence between the 3-degree conjunction on July 4th and the 3 degrees before and after. So engagement, we call it. So it's kind of exciting and it's kind of daunting, to say the least. These are my Mars bracelets. This is my Gemini trio by Otter Spirit. You might want to go check them out. You get 30% discount off. I have a progressed Gemini sun. This is How Light. Hallelujah. I needed this one. How Light keeps you calm when you're under deep stress. And Rhodonite is to be kind and compassionate to myself and others. And the blue apatite is I communicate clearly and confidently. Now we're going to take it to the next story, and then we're going to talk about your sign. And I'm moving to Zoom for simplicity, ease, and joy. This is a consideration of how your life unfolds over 24 months. I don't want you to get lost in the weeds here, guys. Yes, of course, this is in play between June 28th and shortly after July the 4th. We're all feeling it collectively. It's more acute or dramatic energy. And an earthquake in California wouldn't surprise me, for example, or a cyber outage, or electrical power grid failure, or a shocking UFO disclosure, or kinetic dastardly deed happening somewhere in the world. But on the other hand, this is what your 24 months ahead are going to be about until you get to June of 28, right? So there's a broad theme emerging, and it actually moves in 4 parts, because what happened is Mars separates from Uranus and does an opening square, an opposition, and a closing square. It's like a first quarter moon and a full moon and a last quarter moon. And that is going to happen in 4 stages throughout the next 2 years. And when we get to each stage, I'm going to tell you about it. That's why you might want to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Did I even say hi? I'm Lori Lothian. This is Lunatic Astrology. I don't know. This is my 3rd recording today on June the 27th. It's enough to send me over the edge of that cliff that doesn't exist, but I'm happy to jump. Okay. All right. So let's get started with your sun, moon, and rising today. Let's get rolling. This is so much excitement. Go back to the Taurus story, roughly 2000, and the real big bolts of change happened 2020. January, I think, 2022, August, 2024, July. For me, Taurus rising, I changed my home, but talk to a Taurus, ask them how it went. All of you Geminis, of course, sun, moon, and rising, you need to talk to the Tauruses. You need to ask them, how did you guys get through that whole Uranus, Mars, recycle, rinse, and repeat? And there's 4 in Gemini. So there's a lot going on here. Remember, it's like every June in 26, 28, 2030, and 32, kaboom, 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 kaboom. We're getting reinitiated, re-jolted. Join me in Sky Reader, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Everything about me is in the description box below. All right, guys, let's get rolling on the all signs portion of Mars and Uranus co-joining together in the sign of Gemini. What does this mean for you and your sign over the course of the next 2 years? July the 4th, 2026 to June the 23rd, 2028. This is a conjunction of 3 degrees of Gemini. Watch the intro, find out what it might mean. We're going to get started. We're going to do your sign. This is the whole point of this, right? You're here for your sign. Now we're going to go through your sun, moon, and rising sign. Let me explain the difference between your sun, your moon, and your rising. I hear sometimes astrologers teaching or mentioning that your rising sign is your spiritual essence and your true self. And I'm disappointed or concerned by that perspective because it's not the true perspective. Now, you can say, how do I know that? Well, I'm using the ancient traditions. And I also know that from my own life experience. You know, if anybody here in my comments has lived through Uranus going over your ascendant, or Neptune going over your ascendant, or Pluto going over your ascendant, especially by degree, you know it impacts the character in the simulation. Your health, your body is there, the physical form that your spirit inhabits. Your disposition to the world, happy, sad, mad, the I am, you define, I'm a writer, I'm a communicator, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, how you identify the character. I am smart, I am prickly, I am funny, the whole character, nurture nature, call it what you will. You have a particular way of being that starts to show up as a child, particularly formative years. And by age of 7, it's pretty locked and loaded. We are not anything truly connected to the ascendant other than it is the vessel for the light of spirit. And then we play through that vessel like a spacesuit, right? In reality, that is the way we are using the vessel for life. So your ascendant is circumstantially accurate because it's very prone to the vagaries of fate. It's connected to the moon. It's connected to lunar light. It's connected to the nodes of fate. You're essentially driven by fate when your character is just the only thing you're living from. Okay. If you're living from your deeper spiritual self, that's your solar energy. I'm a fire sign in Aries. That's my essence. That's who I am. I'm the fire flavor of God, air, earth, water, fire. And we have modalities. I'm cardinal. You can be cardinal, fixed, or mutable. There's flavors of the divine spark. You are one. Think of a rainbow, one light prisming into various colors. That one light that you are, that one shade of hue of the divine, that is your sun sign by modality, by element, by house, by degree. And then we have the sun playing in matter. So you can think of the sun as the actor or the actress who plays a character in the movie, or as the game player who chooses a character for the simulation in the video game. The same idea. And the moon is your mind. You're thinking, when I say mind, it's how I think and feel. Sufis say thinking and feeling, you got nothing. Stop. Don't rely on your feelings. They're not going to be true. Don't rely on your thinkings. They're not going to be true. Your thoughts will never lead you to truth. It is your knowingness. And your knowing place is deep, intuitive, and still, and it's connected to the knowing heart. So there is a part of you, okay, that is always thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking. That's the moon. The moon reflects the true light of the sun, the spiritual light, but it doesn't have any intrinsic light of its own. It's a reflector. Your mind and your thoughts reflect the true light of your spiritual essence. They are not authentically real. They're just reflecting something that is real. But we live a life with thoughts and feelings. So when you meditate and when you get enlightened, when you're spiritually still, you're turning the moon down. You're dimming your moonlight so you can be in the stillness. Practical note, moon is your mother, sun is your father. Moon is home and nest and safety, and sun can be career and purpose. Okay, ascendant is just a circumstantial character in the sim. Hey guys, if you could like and subscribe, I will kiss your feet. Aries, sun, moon, and rising. This is a story literally of the energy of change that's now applying to your 3rd house. You've been dealing with 2nd house change, money, job, earnings, resources, facial appearance, teeth, and unexpected developments ever since dietary changes, ever since the beginning of this, synodic cycle anyway, going back to 2018-ish to April of this year, and the big jolts that happened in Taurus, as I already mentioned, the dates in the introduction, but in 2020, 22, and 24 with Uranus, Mars, and that's behind you. But I bet you had some rags to riches, riches to rags, some problems with your teeth. I haven't had a cavity in 30 years. I got 2 cavities in that cycle. Things to do with your dietary habits and your money changes as well. Not necessarily bad or good, just big changes. This is how I came into a career. I'm an Aries sun and moon doing astrology online. It happened during all of this Taurus energy. In 2018-19, I went to create this channel as an astrology channel in 2019. And energy-wise, you're done with it. Kiss it goodbye, because now all the unexpected, sudden, dramatic changes are in your whole sign, Gemini sky. And your Gemini sky is right here. This is an enormous difference because this is where you're writing, you're teaching, you're communicating. You might be doing some short distance traveling. This connects you to your sibling relationships, especially the one sibling, one younger than you. in birth order, one below you. And this is also the Gemini part of the sky where you might be considering things to do with your website, right? Your social media platforms and media in general. And any of you who make a living in marketing, selling, teaching, writing, or communicating, this is where the energy is really jacked up. And, starting this July the 4th, add 2 years until June of 28, you're really noticing a lot of different things happening here. It's not steady as she goes. It's not same old, same old. You might be making radical new breakthrough, break free, breakdown energies going in brand new directions in this part of the sky. This is your neighbors and neighborhood, and it could be your home base energy for some of you, especially floating IC can fall into this house and in the whole sign system. And so this could indicate a change of neighborhood, city, or town or locale, not likely dramatic. It can be within your own state. It can maybe be within your own country, but it wouldn't be far off. And so you might be making some moves, all right? Now, not just over the next 2 years. Don't forget, we've got this cycle repeating in 28, 30, and 32. So there's a lot of change maybe of location connected to the local hood in which you decide you're going to reside. The Mars-Uranus conjunction energy here this time around, right? Early degrees of Gemini. If you have a sun or a moon or a rising in the first 6 or so degrees, or any planetary placement in the first 6 degrees of Aries, then of course you're going to really feel it more intensely. Like my Mercury's at 2 Aries. So obviously something to do with my way I communicate will connect to this change cycle as well. I want you to also pay a lot of attention with that third house part of the sky to the idea of being an oracle, a scryer, a fortune teller, a crystal ball gazer. I know it sounds weird, but Demetra George talks about the ancient tradition of the house of the goddess being the third house of the goddess energy, being a lot of the, crystal ball gazers and the local palm readers, whereas the ninth house of God would be going off to see the Oracle of Delphi on a pilgrimage. So there's this kind of everyday oracle down there. And if any of you are in that business, this could be massive excitement or change or new directions in that area. And if any of you want to learn a new skill or talent, well, Mars will bring you in new directions, and Uranus will surprise or shock you by what it is you decide you want to learn, right? I never thought I wanted to learn welding, and now I've become a master welder. That's a skill, right? And you can use it in the world. Anything with your hands and arms, including writing. And so these sewing, painting, hands and arms, skills-based learning, how to change a tire on your car. So you're going to have some excitement there. And, of course, it's lasting through till 2033 kind of thing. But this is the first change cycle. This is the first explosive new direction. Something new is trying to happen here. All right, that's what I can literally call it. Something new is trying to happen here. Flowing to Pluto, influence, power, fame, celebrity, moving the masses, being able to connect to rich and powerful, influential people who support your writing, communicating, teaching, marketing, and selling. And that kind of bakes in that vibe for 2 whole years, especially if you're using Neptune in your life. Are you imaginary? Are you telling stories? Are you using YouTube or videography platforms? Are you in glamour or Hollywood? Are you into the enlightenment scene? All of those things can really become a part of how this change expression happens in that third house for you. So don't limit yourself. Who knows what this could really be about or for. And so that's what we got for you. Enjoy the ride. It's where things are changing. By the way, your siblings and your neighbors could have radical life circumstantial change. And it's not even your story. It's their disruptions in their life. So look for your next door neighbor to have a radical shift, or maybe a sibling. And, again, not your story, right? Not your story. This is particularly true for a sibling, one younger, massive change in the life of a sibling, one younger, or just siblings in general. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is an experiment in time where you have finally left behind Mars co-joining with Uranus in your sign in 2020, 2022, and 2024. And the longer transit of Uranus, very electric energy, very disturbing to your nervous system, maybe bad for your sleep, maybe innervating the Kundalini. Maybe you've had a lot of personal change, Taurus. Your sun is your career. Your moon is your how you feel about life. Moon is mom and nest. Sun is dad and purpose. But then that rising sign is changing too. Has been. It's all over now. You're done. Take your bows. We all applaud the Taurians, right? Who had that once every 87 years and every 84 year transit of Uranus through your sign with Mars jackhammering through there as well. How are you feeling? Because it's behind you. And now you're moving into the new story where your money wants to change. So if you go back to see the change cycle that began in May of 2018, like first started to rumble through your sign, that's complete. The end of April of this 26, Uranus moved into Gemini, and now you're all on to the new story. What are you going to do with that? Go talk to the sign before you ask the Aries how they dealt with it, because it can bring you rags to riches. It can really jack you up in a giant way, unexpectedly, a breakthrough surge of new ways of making money. So don't be afraid of this. It can make you quite wealthy. I'm much more wealthy than I was 7 years ago, before, as an Aries sun and moon, before I got that movement of Uranus through the Taurus second house for my sign. So it can make major life changes regarding your food style, like dietary changes that are dramatic, right? Like way outside your normative box of what kinds of foods you choose to eat or imbibe. It makes some major breakthroughs in changing your diet or addictions as well. And it can also really, it's funny, I joined a sobriety program or two during the time Uranus was in my second house. So that's funny. And Uranus in your second house can make major changes to your way of earning money in your world. How do you earn money? If you've always, like for me, right, I have to use me as an example, Aries sun and moon, when Uranus went through my second house, Taurus, I started to make money online in the social media landscape, especially on YouTube. So I'd never done that before. So you can make money with Uranus, technology, the internet, cutting edge technologies, cutting edge social media platforms. So technologically speaking, the way you make money can dramatically change. And I'd say AI, you might become really good at using AI professionally in some way. And because Uranus is trining Pluto in your 10th house, this is indicating an activation for you of your career spot, your reputation, and like it's an Arthur trine. So, wow, you could become quite wealthy or powerful or influential over the next 7 years in your career as you radically transform the way you use your voice, vocation, and calling, the way you make money, the way you earn the resources that you have. And there also happens to be that little bit of Neptune involved in there, the trine, mini trine to Neptune. I'm wondering if you're going to find yourself moving towards spiritual attainment, sobriety, enlightenment, spiritual themes of retreat, oceanic awareness, or maybe you're going to get involved in career paths that have 12th house features, working for an international company, moving to another country and working there, or making income borderlessly, digital income, borderless revenue. But if you're going to have transformation off this July 4th activation plus 2 years, right? Some of you may get work in another country or make money from places and far off people and foreign lands and shores. Okay. And I want to say with the second house activation, the way your face looks can dramatically change. Mars is surgical and injectable stories, and Uranus is exciting, exhilarating, and out of the box. So I don't advise you do that, but some of you might get really down with like facial rejuvenation or reconstruction or changes to your appearance facially, involving outside the box radical change connected to Mars Uranus over the course of the next 2 years. But this cycle keeps repeating and rinsing through to the end of 2033. So this is a new area exploration for some Tauruses, most likely the rising sign. The sun, will you be more concerned about your career and money than you are about your face, right? That kind of thing. Okay, let's keep on keeping on. Gemini sun, Gemini moon, and Gemini rising sign. The energy is right in your sign. I should have started with you, but you are going to go through radical transformation and change just as the Tauruses did before you. This is the first of the 2-year synodic cycles, July 4th, 2026 to June 23rd of 2028. Those 2 years involve a massive amount of personal transformation. And if you are a rising, your character in the simulation, how you look, is going to change. You're going to get tats and you're going to get nose rings and you're going to get like spiky red hair or something. You will kind of go fly a freak flag and how you bodily want to appear to the world. It can activate Kundalini awakening. You might have a surge of the nervous system opening up. Take magnesium, meditate, and hot magnesium baths. Cool down the nervous system because your electrical currents are going to be turbocharged. This is for the body-oriented Gemini rising. Gemini sun, innovation, new directions, excitement and exhilaration and change in your career. And Gemini moon, your home, your nest is going to change a lot. You're probably not staying in one place over the next 7 years. This first conjunction that's happening here on July 4th through to June of 22 is the first testing of this energy. So obviously it's at 3 degrees, 4 degrees of Gemini. So anyone 0 to 6, 7-ish, maybe 8-ish of Gemini, you're feeling it. But don't forget Gemini. In June of 2028, this conjunction happens at 11 Gemini. And in June of 2030 at 19 Gemini. And in June of 2032 at 26 Gemini. So you guys who have later Gemini placements, right? You're going to get more impact later on in the narrative, but you're all still feeling it because it's almost like, you know, if a hurricane moves into the neighborhood, it doesn't matter if you're at ground zero or you're like 10 blocks away, you're feeling the hurricane. So the hurricane of change will be felt by all. Some of you will be in the absolute chaotic, you know, magnitude of the wind. And some of you will be a little bit distant from it, depending on the degree of sun, moon, and rising. So those of you 0 to 6 degrees, you're in the thick of it right now. This next 2 years is massive change for you. The trine to Pluto in the 9th house. Let's talk. That could definitely indicate a real transformation of purpose and alignment. You want to be aligned with your dharmic mission. Why am I on earth? What's the meaning of my life? What am I supposed to be doing here anyway? Massive, powerful revelations, revealing transformation and catharsis in terms of finding your purpose. The sibling 2 older, changes in that relationship, massive shifts in the sibling 1 older and 2 older. Those 2 relationships, should you have those siblings 1 and 2 above you, those are going to transform in massive ways based on this chart. You could also notice that you kind of want to find a spiritual path. I want to believe in something. I want to find God. I want to find my true religion. I want to find my guru. Some of you are going to lean into deeper layers of wanting to discover the true meaning of life, but also to find a spiritual discipline or path that really opens up doors of knowledge, wisdom, and gnosis knowing. And any of you who want to do book publishing, this is your window. Pluto gives you power and wealth through the house of publications. And this is also exciting, exhilarating, and you can have massive breakthroughs. You can even have with Neptune in the 11th house, big public appeal. Maybe a book you write gets made into a movie. What? Over the next 2 years. But even beyond that, it can indicate the theme that could emerge over the next 7. And the last thing is, if you are in any way disconnected from a father figure in your life, this could hook you back up. This could plug you back into a sort of a aging father figure, and there's been emotional or psychological or physical distance, and there can be a shocking sort of revision and revising of that relationship. Partly also with Neptune and Saturn in the 11th house. There could be money and wealth, shocking amounts of it coming your way out of the blue. Mercury says that it could lead to a kind of boost in your income that you weren't anticipating, based on something to do with paternal or father figures in your life, and particularly those who are elder. And last, I would say, I kind of think that you guys, it's just so personal to you. You know, it's like my progressed Gemini sun feels a bit of this. It's like, where have you been stuck in your own straitjacket or your own box of self-created limitation? Because there's nothing like a lightning bolt strike from Uranus to illuminate something new in a different direction, and Mars to execute the changes necessary. When you put those two together, game on. There's no way that anything that feels stagnant, stuck, or boxed in your life will be able to hold on. You can't keep it. It won't keep you. It will break apart. But you can break free. It can feel like liberation and independence from something that was becoming a straitjacket in your life. Best way, straitjacket is a funny word because that means you're insane, but you know, a binding, a blocking, a constriction. This is going to end that sense of constriction and break you free. So it can be anything. You have to ask yourself where you felt stuck, where you feel like you're boxed in. And with Mercury, the ruler of your sign in this, and this conjunction sitting in your 2nd house, well, clearly maybe the way you make money and you do your career has boxed you in as well. North Node is striving for success. at all costs. And Mercury is working his ass off in a mute sign retrograde. I can see some of you going back to an older profession or an older livelihood that you've done before and be jolted back to the past in terms of what the livelihood will be and how it changes in the next 2 years. Cancer, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, it looks to me like we have this new energy coming in. Don't forget, you've had the Taurus run already. It's been Uranus and Taurus, and the shock and jolts. Watch my intro of that synodic Mars Uranus cycle that was going on in your sky 2020, 2022, and 2024. And you had a lot of changes, Cancer, in your relationship to an elder sibling, in terms of your friendship circles, your career gains, your long-range goals and dreams, and more. Now we move it into and even shocks in your marriage, perhaps, in those 7 years, or connected to family of origin members. But let's go back to now. Let's go forward to now. This is new. This is liberation, moksha, and enlightenment. If you've been ever thinking of your spiritual practice in any deep way, you wanted to kind of like move away from suffering and, attain equilibrium, inner peace, equanimity, satori, and all of moksha liberation words, then this is your chance, because you've got 7 years to do it, once in a lifetime, right? Uranus is moving once in a lifetime, first in a lifetime, through your 12th house. And that's a liberation house. And that's the awakening you're capable of. And that pineal gland and crown chakra can pop wide open. But Mars is delivering the change agent mechanism. And because with Mercury in your sign at the time of this conjunction, you have a lot of personal change ahead of you, but it comes from the deep spiritual wisdom within yourself. It's not coming from other people foisting you into circumstantial changes that you're not welcoming at all. That's not what this is. This is your journey of change that you are inviting in. You may find, because this Mars-Uranus conjunction is flowing, moving in a flow relationship to Pluto, that you could come into chunky money. And if you do, it could be from a father figure or an ailing parental figure, or even from a spousal situation in which money comes your way. There also can be something going on with that Pluto energy where you may uncover some deep secrets connected to your childhood, your family of origin, some things that were unknown that may shock you. But if they do come your way and they do shock you, they also awaken you or liberate you in some way. So this tighter time frame of July the 4th or the days before and after may deliver some big reveal about your family of origin, growing up, ancestral line that you had no idea about, and really knocks you off your feet. Watch out here too, because the 12th house is expenses and expenditures that are, like outlays of money. It can be also investments, but it's most often expenditures. And you may have some literally short-term surprising expenditures. Oh my God, we need a new furnace, or the roof came off the house and we have to replace it. But the deeper meaning is more than that. Like, this is about enlightenment. But if you have shorter term expenditures near July the 4th, a week before, a few days after, that wouldn't surprise me, right? It wouldn't surprise me. But again, you could even invite in some unexpected chunky money off of the sky as well. You might make some major changes in your career in the next 2 years, 2-year cycle. But if you do, it's connected to kind of trying to make a dream come true, career happen for you. And you might be working behind the scenes in the background on something important that you want to achieve, a project or something. And you might spend a lot of time quietly alone. Alone time is your ally. Breakthrough, spiritually, breakthroughs in all areas. It's great for breakthrough addictions. If you have an addiction, you're going to cut through it. If you have a karmic vow, ancestral pattern, or some kind of sludge that needs to be removed, you're going to like shoot right through that thing. It's like, illumination, breakthrough on the deepest spiritual level of your being. You're the universe in ecstatic motion. Well, don't play small, said Rumi. This is your mission, because ultimately, because Uranus and Mars in this 2-year cycle flow to Neptune at the top of your sky, you could become a movie star. You could become well-known. You might be well-known for storytelling, fantasy, imagination, spiritual attainment, and enlightenment messaging. I don't know, because Neptune gives you that glamour at the top of the sky and that attention. But with Saturn, it's hard work or it's long overdue, one of the two. This can impact your marriage. Okay. If you're married, I can't, just because where Saturn is, Neptune, and also Mercury. So there may be some major changes in your marital status over the next 2 years that shock, surprise you. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. I think you're going to deal here up a very powerful story of breaking free and through something over the next 2 years, connected to your 11th house, which is your wishes and your dreams, your career and its gains in particular, gains in financially and reputation and success of your career. And it connects to a sibling one older, and it connects to matters to do with your windfalls, pennies from heaven, like unexpected good things happening like that, karmic and cosmic rewards, shock and awe, surprise. It's a positive house. Now, Mars and Uranus together here, of course, could rewire your entire long-range goals and plans and dreams, rewire what you desire in life completely. Rewire your social friends and groups of belonging. You only hung out with the Christian Women's Club reading the Bible, and now all of a sudden you're going to go wild and cray-cray, and you're hanging out with the whirling dervishes instead. You're going to notice that nothing that you thought was your crew, your social group, and your friends are the same by the end of this 7 years. This first 2 years will give you a clue that you're busting outside the normative in terms of social alliances, groups of belonging, and friendship network. Now, the sibling one older can have massive breakthroughs in their life because it's happening in the house of the sibling one older. In particular, for the sibling one older, that would be spiritual awakening and spiritual breakthroughs. In this kind of chart too, you'll notice that this shift of the career gains house is in a flow to Pluto. Pluto in the house of audience, marketplace, clients, and customers. Wealthy, powerful transformation people show up in your life to help your career gains radically take a directional change. Movement makers, moving the masses can happen here. You notice that Neptune is connected to the story in your 9th house. I think the Neptune 9th house story may definitely bring you into a deeper spiritual alignment of some kind, with purpose, with meaning, with knowledge and wisdom. And some of you may want to go back to school. This could incite, because of Mercury's placement, the ruler of this conjunction, a desire to learn and to go back to school. Certainly with Mars in the conjunction ruling your house of higher education, a few Leos will take a to school or back to school approach to academics and higher learning over the next 2 years. I want to also mention a little bit of this. You are divinely protected by Jupiter coming through your sign. So no matter what explosive energies are happening here, nothing is going to cause you physical harm. I want to reassure you of that. But I also feel like you could have something dramatic happen to a friend, or about a friend, or with a friend, or a sibling one older. Yet because this is flowing to you in a sextile, whatever this is perceived by you as mostly positive. A friend could suddenly want to bequeath you money. Like, I'll just give you money. You don't have to bequeath it. Or an elder sibling could surprise you financially over the next 2 years and benefit you, as if from that sibling, you feel like the sky is raining windfalls and pennies from heaven at you. So there's a way that certain types of people can bring a greater sense of financial gratitude to your life, because it feels like a windfall in your world, right? Rather than being literally a windfall in your world. Although you never know, with Jupiter in your sign, you could win the lottery. So some of you may come into some kind of wins in the next year financially that are like a literal win. So because Mercury also rules your second house of money, and so you could be richer than you started out with within 2 years from now. And by the way, you've been dealing with that Uranus shock and awe through your 10th house of career. I bet you had some unexpected disruptions since 2018 in your career space. Watch the intro for the exact dates of the Taurus story, but it's like, okay, nothing was as stable as it could have been, or rags to riches, riches to rags, or ups and downs in the career sector, in the job sector, in the work sector. Lots of change, lots of shifts for 7 years. That is gone now. You're into this new story. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. The energy of a conjunction, first in a lifetime, Mars, Uranus, 2-year synodic reset cycle, opens a door of change in your career path. Now, it's your visible reputation. If you're retired, people say, oh yeah, there goes Sally. She's always gardening. Now, well, there goes Sally. She's like an archery queen and she's just won the Olympic award, you know, like you're changing how people see you, how you define success professionally or in the eyes of the world. And if you're working already, you have career path stuff, then it's not staying the same. There's nothing about what you're doing now that's going to be anything like what you're doing 2 years from now. Something wants to change in the visible reputation and career sector. Now, you could also consider this is a house of weddings and divorces and social standing shifts. So there may be some major changes there. I'm getting married, I'm getting divorced, all of that. It's very weddings and wakes and social standing orientation, how your visible stature is in the world. Some of you may be making radical changes there as well. This is squaring your 7th house of marriage, opposing your house of home and where you live, radically cracking up your identity. It's angular, so everything's changing, everything's shifting. And if you have in Virgo 0 to 6 sun, moon, or rising, you particularly feel this intensity over the next 2 years. If your midheaven is in the 10th house, 0 to 6 degrees, this next 2 years dramatically, radically changes how you are functioning in a career. And with the trine to Pluto in the 6th house of your work environment, work and career are dramatically changing for all Virgo risings. But again, midheaven in the first 6 degrees of the 10th house, Gemini, or sun, moon, and rising in the first 6 degrees of Virgo, you get more intensity than the rest of the Virgos, right? But all Virgos feel it anyway, right? I use the analogy in the beginning. There's a hurricane in the neighborhood. Believe me, you don't have to be at ground zero. You're feeling the wind blow. I think that the Pluto piece is interesting. You may become very successful professionally in the next 2 years, but certainly by 2032, 33. And so there's a new level of you maverick energy as well, breaking out of straitjackets in your career, being a maverick, because Pluto's going to go out of bounds intermittently for 10 years, and breaking the rules and busting out and doing an invention of career, a new inventive career. Now, you might be reinventing yourself because you're retired. You might be in a career right now that you think is just okay. So you're going to really radically redefine career. And you could have great exhilaration and freedom and excitement in your career over the next 2 years, Virgos. That said, this is squaring your marriage house, and it's tightly squaring the moon and the north node. So there can be major changes in your long-term committed love relationship, or your partner's having major changes connected to his or her family of origin and his or her homeland, home country, and home domicile. But otherwise, you and that relationship are under a huge energy snap, crackle, and pop. And therefore, in the next 2 years, you could move your home and you could change your marital status, right? Divorced, separated, married, those kinds of things. We are bending the nodes of fate. There's only so much I can cover in one video. So there's a lot of destined change here. A lot of change is coming through your sky. And possibly, if you're a single Virgo looking for a relationship, there's no reason why you couldn't find one. This would be a destined new love story of a, magnitude of soulmate order, north node in your 7th house that radically transforms your reality. But you might meet somebody in this case, according to this chart, I could be wrong, who lives in a far off land or distant shore from where you currently live, or with whom you meet with friends, or you are somebody who you friend zoned or is a friend, and there's a sudden turn of events, and you and that friend are now madly, wildly, crazily, passionately in a relationship over the next 2 years. Those themes are not impossible, right? They're quite possible. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. You are looking at a huge amount of electrical charge of change that's likely unexpected or disruptive in your 9th house. This could disrupt your relationship to a father or father figure. It could disrupt your relationship to your academic programs, to your court and legal matters. You could have a breakthrough win in a legal case. You could also have a breakdown in a legal case. You might be even thinking, what about my purpose, anybody? I feel like I need to align. Or you're in the book publishing industry and you have a breakthrough kind of event, like, I don't know, a publishing deal that knocks your socks off in the next 2 years, or a viral hit in the publishing world. So there's excitement there for sure. It flows to you in an air trine, and it flows to Pluto in the house of entrepreneurship, the muse, and creativity, and your talents and gifts you're born to express. You're going full on Dharma here. You're looking like you're aligning like lockstep with purpose. Sometimes with this kind of a sky, there may be a connection to a sibling too older than you, or 4 younger than you that has radical changes of direction in their life vis-a-vis your relationship to them. This can also make you feel like you are unexpectedly and shockingly becoming a grandparent. You weren't planning on grandchildren because your kids were not having any more kids or having kids at all. And suddenly you are foisted into grandparenthood under this sky in an unexpected way over the next 2 years, Libra. The energy of the shock and awe in the 9th house can also bring some big stories to do with your spiritual direction, your spiritual beliefs. As I said, I think I said that earlier, but if I didn't, I reiterate that, you're not sticking with the same old. This is a whole new spiritual landscape, a pioneering new direction for you in something to do with your spiritual belief structures and how you operate on the religious or spiritual, but not religious plane of existence. There is a very powerful energy here for you if your Libra sun, moon, or rising is within 6 degrees of Libra, or if your midheaven is in the first 6 degrees of Libra. Okay, midheaven, 6 degrees of Libra, you're changing your whole career path. And if it's your 6 degree, within 6 degrees sun, moon, and rising, sun is your career, moon is your home and nest, and rising is your body and identity. And all of those are under massive change, but in an airflow, which means that mostly it feels like the change brings more exhilaration and positive expansion and growth and even luck than anything else, rather than feel stressed. Because Mercury rules this event and he's retrograde in your 10th house, I wonder if some of you might go back to a career path or a career direction that you'd had done something in it before. Now, it may not be, it could even be a company you've worked for before, but it could be a shocking return of an old job direction or career direction that you're going back to, and it's surprising or exhilarating energy around that in the next 2 years. Maybe evidence for that closer in, right, coming up this July. And Neptune is saying, well, if you're in a relationship with somebody who's Neptune Saturn, so maybe struggling with addictions or sobriety, or in a relationship with somebody who's older or younger than you by 7 years, then there's an activation of those themes of that relationship and some breakthrough energy there. And there's a nice little vibe here sometimes when I see Neptune in the 7th house, if you were single, of bringing in a divine complement or soulmate. And if that happens, look no further than your friendship circles and groups for you to meet somebody that would feel like you've met your match. But because of the 9th house activation, it could also connect to matters that have to do with travel. Are you on a foreign journey or adventure, or is the person you're going to meet on one as well? And so you could meet in the context of international travel. Could even indicate that you're totally falling in love with a person from another country. But I still see the possibility of meeting through social engagement, groups of belonging, or group events. And that does not preclude group events that involve travel. So if there's a desire to meet somebody under those circumstances, because you're single, that could be a part of the excitement of the next 2 years. Don't forget, you live through the tale of the Taurus story. You've already been through a lot of upsets with the in-laws and inheritance monies and banks and mortgages and loans and property loans and lands and chunks of money and separation and divorces if necessary, in-law monies, right? That Taurus story played out in your chart for quite a long time. 2018 till just this last April. So those jolts of change are no longer upon you. Now you're in that 9th house. Now it feels good. Now it trines you. Now you're welcoming the change, right? You're like, yeah, bring it on. Like, this is like, I want to fly the friendly skies with this exhilarating excitement and radical change and also dharmic or purpose alignment. So roll with it, fellow, all my Libra friends and fam. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising. Well, I do feel like that you're going to be receiving some chunky money in the next 7 years. In-law money, inheritance money, spousal separation agreement money, chunks of any kind, windfalls, lottery wins, take your pick, money coming in a chunk. I particularly like this for you because this particular conjunction is opening up a flow to the moon and the north node in your house of good fortune, which includes winning money through gaming and speculation. There's always a chance that you could be encountering a chunk of money either close to this event, like around the July 4th, a week before and after, or even in the next 2 years. It kind of bakes in good fortune and money. It also bakes in other stories as well. Could bake in unexpected pregnancies. It could bake in unexpected gains financially from your creative, artistic, entrepreneurial directions. the energy of the eighth house will open up doors of spiritual enlightenment if you're looking for a divestment to your ego. If you think that you are your ego, if you believe that you are this limited, finite identity, this will bust that wide open. This is one of the liberation houses. You also, over the next couple of years with this placement, may find yourself in the possession of a new home. Pluto, wealth and power, home and real estate. Mars, Uranus, shocking ways to finance it. Money available for your financing of a powerful, transformative home, new home, big home, large home, take your pick. Could even indicate for some of you that you might want to, well, you could receive money from the in-laws as well. Inheritances and estate money from your in-laws as well as your own family. With Mercury, with the sun in the ninth house, which is a father house, there can be some shocking surprises in the next 2 years as you come into money from inheritances from a father figure, grandpa, great grandpa Jones, great uncle, Bob, elderly, patriarchal figure in the family system, including your parent, your father. And there may be that shocking surprise or unexpected development, or maybe not a surprise. Maybe it's, Mercury's retrograde. You always thought it was going to come anyway. And now here it is. Mars is the Lord of your sign. He wants nothing but the best for you. So it's time for that money to come back to you in a way, almost like, you knew it was coming, but now it's going to land in your lap or land in your lap. You'll be richer at the end of the next 7 years. Keep it simple. You'll be more wealthy 7 years from now, Scorpios. And if you're such a Scorpio moon, you might get money from property, land, and real estate, right? Scorpio sun from father figures. The Scorpio rising, any part of the story I've told you is already true. Finally, to consider, eighth house matters. If you want to become an occultist, if you want to, learn astrology or tarot or numerology or hermetic wisdom, if you want to talk to the dead, anything like that, this is a door for you. And this is going to keep opening and opening and opening, like, right? June of 28, June of 15, June of 2030, June of 2032. You keep getting jolted here. It can wake you up to liberation. We can just wake up your cities or your spiritual powers and gifts, especially given when it starts off the next 2 years with the North Node moon in the fifth. This could really open up latent spiritual powers and talents and abilities that you would think of as occult or paranormal or supernatural, or super woo-woo. So if that part of your life has been laying somewhat dormant or uninvestigated, it'll break free. Family secrets will bust right out here, guys. Mom and dad, parents, family secrets, shock and awe. Sometimes secrets from your spouse, but mostly this is parental and family of origin oriented here. And so, what are you going to say? Okay, I didn't see that coming. But you can have these kind of parental secrets jolting your way. The flow to Pluto is uncovering that which is hidden from your childhood or family of origin. Neptune, hey, dream job, anybody? Or a dream elimination of debt and indebtedness. A dreamy new home in the next 2 years, but maybe connected to rental properties and rather than purchases. And the ideal pet, but a reincarnation of a pet that you've already owned in the next 2 years. All right. Good luck with that, Scorpios. Don't forget, you survived the marriage story, right? You had Uranus and Mars jolting your marriage house on and off since 2018. And I bet you your partner wanted to go marriage sabbatical, polyamory, or you had radical ups and downs within the relationship, or your partner had massive life changes that were shocking. But that part of your story is over if you had a partner. And if you didn't, you were dating a radically wild and freakishly weird people. Okay, moving on. All right. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. It's a sky in which you're going to have a new change, shock, and awe connection to the part of your sky that is your relationship. So go talk to the Scorpios. They've lived through this before you. This is like when you commit in business partner and love partnerships like marriage, and therefore those longer term cohab, common law, monogamous storylines, or your long-term commitments to business partnership agreements, those people over here. Sometimes your audience and marketplace, Sag. If you're single, you could definitely meet somebody, but boy, will they be different. Like nobody you've dated before, but maybe a dream person, maybe a divine complement, sextiling Neptune in the house of romantic love. So next 2 years, single Sages fall madly in love with somebody completely different than any kind of person they've ever dated before, but you feel a spiritual connection. If you're with somebody already, Sagittarius, it's going to disrupt the relationship. It's going to disrupt it greatly. That's why you want to go talk to all your Scorpios who've lived through this for 7 years. It doesn't mean you're going to break up. It means there's going to be changes in the way you guys work together. Is if you're codependent or you're too independent, you're looking for interdependence, the perfect balance there. Your partner may radically shock and surprise you over the next 2 years. They may act in ways that are completely unusual and unlike who they are or who they were, because that's changing. And they may have freedom and breakthroughs that you're just beholding and witnessing in your love partner that is really about their life. They could be catapulted into different directions that surprise you. Including in this kind of chart for your love partner, they may come into inheritance money. They may have someone in their family of origin die, and you may be receiving money from your in-laws as well. Because the North Node is activated in the house of mom and dad and family of origin stories, and because Mercury's in the house of inheritance, this does bring you into the potential of an inheritance. Mars is cutting in a maraca or death house in the setting place, shocking endings in a father figure's life. That would be a dad, right? Grandpa, father figure, great uncle, daddy, or whatever, dad figures. So there may be, like, even if they're eldering, maybe they seem fine. So with Mars, Uranus, death energy, sorry to say that, but you don't have a lot of warning. So if you have loose ends with any parental father figure that you think might be coming into that, gently into that good night, well, they're not going to linger, right? They'll be out fishing one day and they'll just like stop it all. I'm done. I had the best fishing episode of my life, and that person just leaves their body. So you want to be ready for that psychologically in the next 2 years. I'm giving you a heads up. It could happen. It doesn't have to happen. All right. Could happen. It doesn't have to happen. You want to go talk to all your Scorpio rising friends in particular, but Scorpios went through this before you. And this is really more true, the inheritance story for Sag rising. For Sag sun, it's more like career, and Sag moon, it's home and nest related. Okay. But I think a lot of you will move, right? Because this is squaring the moon in the 4th house. It's angular. It's spending the north node, a south node, north node axis. You're going to change your career. You're going to change where you live. You're going to change your relationship status. Game on. All bets are off. This is the mutables. You're going to make changes. Is your rising sign sun or moon in the first 6 degrees of Sag? Well, then you're really feeling it, right? Really feeling the change, changing your career, changing your home, changing your relationship status over the next 2 years. It's a humdinger, guys. It's a humdinger. But on the other side, some of you could be coming into that money that I see here. So there's maybe a silver lining to the story. All right, we've got a few more signs to go. The last 3 signs. This has been a recording day of 4 hours because of tech failures and adjustments to the new system. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is the sky of your 6th house that gets a new change axis. And this is a liberation, freedom from something that ails you, an illness, breakthrough in an illness, a breakthrough in a job or work setting that you no longer want, a breakthrough with pets, a breakthrough with rental situations, places to live that are connected to property rentals, and a breakthrough when it comes to karmic debts and indebtedness or debt servicing, like paying off credit cards or bank loans or even spousal support or something like that. So where you've had to endure in debt repayments, for example, there could be a sudden shocking ending to that or change or ending. Now, one thing about this is that it is your pet, so be careful, especially around July the 4th. If you have a pet, you don't want that pet to have an unexpected disastrous injury. So that's the other thing to be watchful for. This is also the house of your sickness, and Gemini can rule the hands and arms. You don't want to chop your hand off. You also don't want to get a lung infection that's really bad, airborne illness. So this is where you have to be a little bit careful, not for 2 years, just around July the 4th. This is something that you, like, if you want to get this, you've already gone through the radical changes in the house of sexuality and romantic love and children and creative and entrepreneurial stories, Cap. You've already done that. You've been doing that since 2018. Like, I have a Cap X who literally went wild into like the land of sexual tantra, and stuff like that. I mean, you probably went outside your normative box when it came to sexual romantic love and energy, starting back in 2018. And that's coming to a close. Like the experimental field of romantic love and, whatever, what would you call it? Like being a bit of a dilettante and there's another word for Uranus in the 5th house. It's like innovative, experimental change in that romance house. That's gone, right? You're leaving that behind. That energy been jolting since 2018 is done. There's no more in and out, on and off, up and down, left and right. erratic energy in your romantic life anymore. So should you start a relationship in the future, it will be a lot more stable, is what I'm trying to say. Your energy of the sixth house is Pluto fueled from the second of money, earnings, and resources. Also, Pluto transforming your dietary habits and styles. So your food and your health and changes are divinely interconnected in a potent and powerful and revelatory way. You might find that all the time you had this problem with your rashes, and it was just because you were eating almonds and they're bad for you. And so there's kind of like dramatic changes in how you eat, and it improves your health for sure. There's also this energy though of money and job and earnings, because these are your Arta houses. And so Pluto, transformation and wealth and power, and sixth house, job. So there's a sense here, because Mercury's retrograding the house of partnerships, business partnerships, that you could end up with a person from the past proposing some employment opportunity or partnership in a work or business endeavor. That could happen under this sky. There is the energy as well as a sibling that could be 3 older or 3 younger than you in birth order, coming from the past and implicating your money scene, right? Changing your relationship to your financial structures, land, property, and real estate, and the wealth you can possess. So because of that, you may have money connected to that 3 older, 3 younger sibling emerging in new and surprising ways. Divorce and marriage and all of that. Because the 7th house is activated, and there's a retrograde Mercury, there is a possibility that you may have something to do with a former long-term love partner or spouse coming back from the past, Mercury retrograde, and connecting to matters of money and debt and home and land and real estate and property in some fundamental way that I can't possibly imagine what it is. Anything to do with the in-laws, if you're married, can indicate money and inbound inheritances from in-laws that allow you to eliminate debt. And by that means like pay off the entire mortgage, or, eliminate all of the debt you owe somehow in one fell swoop. So that would be coming off of in-law money or in-law inheritance under this kind of a sky. And not just on July 4th. Remember the introduction. Please go watch the introduction over the next 2 years, because Capricorn, you're going to have this 6th house activate over and over and over again through the next 7 years, right? I talked about in the intro, June of 28, June of 2030, June of 2032. And hey, come on, we're bending the nodes of fate as well. So it really does pivot a very large sibling energy in your chart, because this North Node in the house of siblings with the moon. It could bring you property, land, and real estate connections to siblings and where you live. Changes of home and siblings may be interconnected. So Neptune wants you to find a dream home. Saturn says, well, Aries, it's hot, warm place that's remote and distant. That's Aries, frontier land that may involve Saturn, rocky hills, and involves Neptune, a view of the water. Okay, I'm just making stuff up, but there's like an archetype down there in the 4th house. But you would likely look at the opportunity for that kind of property, either through all the things I told you, in-law money, money from a sibling, but also something to do with rental property opportunities as well. The shock and awe could be close to this time frame, but you've got 2 years for this to deliver some kind of radical change of maybe where you live in connection to money and or rental property opportunity. Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Well, first things first. This is the energy of a conjunction in your 5th house of good fortune. No matter what I say about this, I can't see it being all that bad, Aquarius. I'm one of you, because this is in a flow to who we are. It's called a trine. It's the nature of Jupiter. Ease and flow, expansion and growth come off of the trines. So there's some shocking, surprising, erratic energy in the 5th house of good fortune. This could look like winning money. Sure, this is a house where we have gambling and speculation wins. So I won't discount the possibility. And with Jupiter trining the house of windfalls at this time, yes, you could get that as well. If you don't win money, you could just be very fortunate in general over the next 2 years in ways that surprised you. This is where your entrepreneurial business is. This is where your creative, artistic muse and endeavors are. This is where you might find yourself unexpectedly pregnant, or one of your children unexpectedly pregnant. There may be some major changes in the life of any of your children. This is particularly activating the firstborn child. And if there's any changes in the life of a firstborn child, it's going to be unexpected radical changes in their work environment and what they're doing in their work. And you'll notice that over the next 2 years, the kid that you always thought was going to be just, oh yeah, they love it, they're an engineer, suddenly becomes a movie star. So there is something about a radical professional change in the life of a firstborn child. If you're single, like I am, you might find somebody. If you find somebody, Jupiter in the 7th house, it's going to be a good relationship, but it's going to be so unexpected, outside the box, like nothing you ever anticipated before, like nothing you would have entertained before. And because it is also sextiling Neptune, there's a divine complement, a spiritual unity, or a feeling of spiritual camaraderie involved in a relationship like this, and trining Pluto, power, transformation, and cathartic regeneration and rebirth, fueled from the fires or the air of romance. You know, I'm going to do a video about everybody's 5th house sign and talk about how you feel love. But a Gemini 5th house person is, to love me is to communicate with me. To love me is to talk to me. To love with me is to share ideas with me, right? And the trine to Pluto could be a very powerful kind of relationship in which you're sharing your mind, my mind to your mind, like Spock, with another person. Your mental apparatus is how you fall in love. I'm going to do that video because it's going to be fun. So yeah, you're not looking at the person's, body and going, I'm in love. You're looking at the person's mind and the way you communicate, and then you're in love. Your children can do, firstborn in particular, children in general can go in erratic, crazy, wild new directions in the next 2 years. Adult children, or even young children, like, in school, they decided, they're going to radically change their gender, their sexual orientation. Both of those are true, double-bodied 5th house for your children. I mean, you're born with children and yourself who can be bisexual, gender fluid, non-binary, change gender, change preferences about which sex they love. And so this is something that you can notice shocking or surprisingly happening in your life, your own life, or the life of your children. And lastly, like the sign before you, the Cappies, you're going to be more experimental, innovative, and rule-breaking when it comes to romantic and sexual energy. That's all it is. It's going to, you're not going to do things you never did before, outside that box. Also, your artistic muse direction is like highly innovative, radically different than anything you imagined. Your muse is channeling different kinds of poetry, and your divine downloads are coming through your pineal gland in the muse direction in ways that surprise you, especially if you're a writer because of Neptune, Saturn, and the writing house. I mean, this is a whole new power packed 2 years for you when it comes to sustained ability to imagine and write and create in ways not ever imagined by you before. And if you're in the social media landscape with Neptune, Saturn, then you're going to be on fire with passion, purpose, inspiration, and dharma when it comes to how you engage in writing, marketing, selling, communicating in the social media landscape, Neptune, Saturn in the 3rd house. This is a 2-year story. This is not just July 4th. Remember that. This is a 2-year story. It's going to radically change your life purpose direction. It's going to put you in a place of good fortune and lots of luck. It's quite conceivably will increase your wealth because it squares the North Node and the moon in your 2nd house. But it's a spark of tinder from the creative muse, inspiration, passion, inspiredness that you are bringing to what you're creating, that then the money does increase in the next 2 years. If you're tepid and lukewarm about what you're doing to create something, whether it's writing, social media, marketing, selling, teaching, you won't be in the financial flow. It's coming from that spark of the muse and the excitement of the muse that is enlivening you over the next 2 years, fellow Aquarius. Okay, so what about Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign? I need water, but I'm going to get done with you first. You're angular, you're a mutable sign, you're angular. I addressed this in the beginning. You are likely to experience radical life changes, change of home, change of relationship status, change of work and career status, everything up for grabs. Toss it in the air, see what lands. Now, this is not just true on July 4th. This is true until like the end of this cycle, end of 2033. But this first salvo of the conjunction of Mars and Uranus in your 4th house on July 4th, add 2 years. is most likely to radically redirect the Pisces sun, moon, and rising with your sun, moon, or rising in the first 6 degrees of Pisces. Okay. Maybe 10 if you had to be generous. This can disrupt your marriage if you're married, especially with the South Node being bent, right? It's like, okay, you're quitting, you're divorcing, you're separating, your partner's given up. Maybe your partner's passing. I mean, I'm just saying, in the next 2 years. This is radical. When I say partner, I mean, this is a marriage or this is a committed long-term cohabiting love story. If you haven't already let go of a relationship in the last 18 months, I'm shocked with the South Node there, right? So if you haven't let go and you're clinging by your fingernails to this relationship, it may finally fall away, but in a very shocking, fast moving way that you can't control. Changes of your career, of course, because that's opposite Mars and Uranus, but changes to your social standing, divorced, married, widowed, separated. Also changes to your nest, your home. This is where the main change is happening. So you got to go talk to, Aquariuses. They went through the 7-year cycle of ask me about my 5 residential changes in 7 years. You're going through that now. You're going to be changing where you live, and not just once, maybe, because, July of 26, June of 28, June of 2030, June of 2032, all keep detonating change in your 4th house. This is a house of the mother in Vedic astrology. It's a house of parents in general in Hellenistic astrology. So major changes to your family of origin, people you grew up with. Also major changes when it comes to literally your whole, you know what I mean? Not just like maybe you've been living in a tent and now you're going to live in a mansion. Like, it's dramatic changes of home. This is not predictable energy. So you're going to say to me in the comments, no, I've lived in my house for 40 years. I'm not going anywhere. I can hear you. No, you're going to move, right? Somehow, some way. There's 90% likelihood of you moving in the next 2 years. Mercury rules the 4th house from the 5th house. You may move in connection to romantic and sexual love, especially from a lover from the past returning, or you may move in the next 2 years in relationship to events that are in the life of a child. Okay, especially a firstborn child, but a child in general. Well, in this chart, a secondborn and a firstborn are both activated. And the changes in the life of those children may incite you to a change of home in the next 2 years. You might also experience a new relationship, but also an old relationship. I don't see how it can be otherwise with Mercury retrograde. I don't think it's from a past life as much as just the past. So a romantic relationship from the past, one that likely involved a significant amount of commitment because of Mercury ruling your 7th house, can emerge from the depths of the mists of time and return into your life in the next 2 years. And that could also indicate a change of domicile because of that. Pluto in the 12th house, trining this change of residence could mean you'll move to a distant shore or far off land, maybe another country, maybe the other side of your country. Neptune, he wants you to look at the money scene. He wants you to figure out your money situation. He wants with Saturn to give long-term, steadfast savings and reliable money sources. And Mars and Uranus with Neptune could bring you some kind of dream income direction or dream financial security. I mean, like, it's like a dream come true, or you've visualized and hoped for it. And Mars sextiling Saturn in general could indicate by working hard from your home base, you can acquire stable income over the course of the next 2 years. But with Uranus, there's radical changes in how you make that money from home, right? So if you've always done, like, I don't know, made candles from home and sold them on the market, now you might be doing something very different. Because Mercury is in your entrepreneurial house, entrepreneurial gigs can be how you make money, or creative artistic gigs. And some of you could go on YouTube and make money under the sky, like visual platforms with moving imagery. But I think Mercury retrograde keeps pointing us to the past. So if you made money in any entrepreneurial ways in the past, you might return to those ways again in the next 2 years. Not too bad, though, for you in terms of moving home, if you are going to do that in regards to a relationship or your children. But unfortunately, with the South Node being bent, there may be like almost a need to change your home. Like, that relationship has collapsed And now you have to rehome yourself, right? Because the marital home is no longer there. And that just can feel disruptive at first, but the long game isn't to cause harm here. The long game of this story, Jupiter is your ruler in the 6th house, by the way, not really seeing you properly right now, but the long game of the story, because Jupiter does witness the conjunction more or less. The long game of the story is something to do with you being more healthy, more employed in a continuous and earnings related way, stable earnings. But sometimes the way you make money, it requires you to also maybe move. So I could also say job opportunities require you to relocate, because Jupiter and the flow to the 10th house. And so there's a lot of reasons for you guys to move. I will like to hear back in 2 years from you guys. Okay, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising, especially Pisces moon and Pisces rising. Pisces sun, you'll move for career-related reasons. Get back to me, please. 2 years from now, come back to this video. I bet you 80% of you are no longer living where you live now. I'll bet my bottom dollar. All right. I like Ceres down there. You probably want to move somewhere where there's lots of space connected to land, right? Lots of growing space, lots of gardens, lots of agriculture, lots of space to grow things. Not a cityscape, really, with Ceres at the bottom, unless you have lots of window boxes on your balcony. Okay, thank you everybody for listening. See you guys on the other side. Ciao, ciao. Lunatic astrology.